Toyota's falling back once again on their lofty EV targets and sales. Previously, by 2026, they said they're going to be selling 1.5 million EVs, not including hybrids, this is battery electrics, globally by 2026. Well, that number just got chopped down. Guys, if you're excited to talk about today's news, smash the like button. I have a lot to cover today, not only with Toyota EVs, but we're going to also talk about how Volvo, who was insistent on saying, hey, we're going to be fully electric by 2030, that just got thrown out the window as well. So it's not just Toyota ramping down these EV targets massively. It's other companies as well who are much more electrified than Toyota. But Toyota's electrification is still growing. Heading over to automotive news, and I will cover it, guys, keep in mind, I haven't gone over the August sales yet, and I'm not at home. When I'm at home, it's a lot easier to do that with all my gear and bigger screens to break down these numbers. So stay tuned for that, because I will bring that to you guys probably in the next day or so is the August sales. But Toyota, just real quick, their electrified models rose 49% to about 95,000 units, which accounts for 48% of its U.S. deliveries during the month, nearly all of them hybrids. You can see Toyota is actually down a little bit, and we'll talk about why in tomorrow's video, but Lexus is soaring. Very, very surprising how well they're doing. So we're going to go back to this article at Nikkei Asia. Toyota to slow EV output 30% below previous 2026 sales forecast. So remember, it was 1.5 million BEVs was their goal by 2026. 30% less is just down to 1 million units. Why would they be doing this? Well, unless you've been living under a rock, EV uptake in Europe has slowed significantly. Even you could even make the case that it has slowed a little bit in China, but that's not the specialty of this channel, so I'm not going to go into the Chinese market. That's a whole nother beast. And Toyota has notified, here's the thing, this is what makes it difficult. And if you guys are wondering where I'm at, I am in Michigan for a big Honda event. Honda is actually revealing more information today about its EV hub in Ohio where they're making EVs. So stay tuned for that. Very, I guess, right on cue, right? A Japanese automaker talking about EVs. Honda's much more serious about EVs than Toyota, it seems like, anyways. But Honda, other than being fully electric by 2040, they said essentially before that, it's going to be whatever the market demands, whatever the consumer demands, they're going to put their eggs into that basket. Of course, they're not going to be neglecting EVs. Toyota has notified its parts suppliers the decision. And this is one that I sat down with the EV hub main guy last night at dinner for Honda. And I'm saying, hey, you know, what worries me the most is if you say you have this amount of BEVs coming by a certain date and time, and then all of a sudden the market switches, how are the suppliers going to react? Are they going to be able to stay afloat, right? Suppliers are dependent on OEMs like Honda, like Toyota, ordering a lot of parts for them, a lot of pieces to build cars. And if orders just get wiped off, will they be profitable? I'm sure it's all going to be fine, but it's not easy being a supplier right now, I'll say that. But it's not also easy being an OEM, trying to figure out where the market's going to go, what the government may or may not do. Honestly, when I was talking to Honda's EV hub manager, he said it all comes down to what the consumer wants. All right. So anyways, under the new plan, Toyota aims to produce a little more than 400,000 EVs in 2025 and to more than double the production the following year. All right, so let's look at Toyota's previous EV forecast. In 2025, they were expecting 800,000. Well, the new target is half of that, 400,000. So in 2025, Toyota will have one half of the EVs that they promised were coming. Is that going to hurt them? Absolutely not. the slower the better in this case because of the huge slowdown on EV uptake. So we're going to put 400,000 here, and then we're going to put 1 million. Now, these targets in 2027, 28, 29, and 2030, we don't know. That's even more unsure, right? So in 2030, Toyota did say that they would have 3.5 million EVs being sold around the world. 3.5 million, which is about a third of their total car production, right? But if it just went down to 1 million in 2026, this 3.5 million in 2030 is looking like pie in the sky. It's not going to happen, I don't think. But let's say they have a big battery breakthrough, then that changes. And we're going to talk about Toyota batteries today too. Toyota only sold about 100,000 EVs in 2023, 80,000 EVs from January through July this year. Of course, they're going to beat last year's BEV output. And according to UK research specialist Global Data, global EV sales reached almost 10 million units in 2023, a 32% increase from the previous year. However, the growth rate has decelerated. In 2022, EV sales rose 65% from the previous year. And of course, depending on the market, it is completely different. In the United States market, EV growth this year, it's supposed to be about 8% total of the United States market, which is only about a 12 or 13% growth roughly of EV growth here in the United States. Only about a 12 to 13% increase in our market. Tesla sales this year have fallen 7%. China's BYD, the third biggest automaker in the world at this point, has an increase of 18%, but their plug-in hybrids have jumped to 40%. And this was, I didn't mention this. Haven't got around to it. I've been traveling, right? Germany is getting a big EV downturn, so much so that Volkswagen is considering closing a factory for the first time due to the high cost of EV investments. It is quite the uproar over there in Germany. A lot of people will be losing their jobs with the closing of certain plants. General Motors is postponing large EVs at its Michigan plant by 2 years. Ford is halting development of its large 3-row EV. They've halted, or should I say postponed, the development and launch of their next-gen EV pickup truck as well. And like I said, Volvo, EV only by 2030, that's out the window. And we got some exciting things to talk about Volvo today. And as this article finishes up, among Japanese automakers, only Toyota has changed its EV strategy. Honda continues to bolster EV production rather than backing down from its goal to produce EVs only by 2040, or you could say fuel cells in there as well. So here's some other big news happening. Toyota and Nissan are greatly rising Japan's battery capacity by around 50% in the short term. This would lift capacity to 120 gigawatt hours from 80 gigawatt hours, and by 2030, 150 gigawatt hours. So what does that mean in terms of how many batteries how many battery electric vehicles Japan could produce? So let's put 150 gigawatt hours in here. Let's say the average battery size for EV, let's say it's 85 kilowatt hours. All right. That's 1.7 million BEVs being able to be produced in Japan by 2030. Toyota also just came out with this big news update. Next-gen BEV battery development and production plan has been certified by METI, which is the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry in Japan. These batteries, these type of batteries, the next-gen battery, the performance model that will be coming in 2026 for the new gigacasted, new software-defined vehicles will be launching on a Lexus, right? This has been certified, so they can start mass producing these in 2026. Also, some solid-state batteries. Now, this is where it's like I'm pumping the brakes. Only 9 gigawatt hours per year. You got to remember, these batteries are only going in Lexus models at first, and then production will ramp up. So let's put in 9 gigawatt hours. And let's say since Lexus is a premium brand, they'll have bigger batteries. Let's say we're going to have battery packs the size of 100 kilowatt hours, for example. That gives us 90,000 next gen EVs produced out of this plant for global consumption. Some of these EVs will go to China, Europe, and of course here in the United States. With these next gen batteries with 600 miles and then all solid state batteries, this is a big question mark. When are they coming? Well, Toyota's going to start producing them apparently in 2026, but Toyota says they got the chemistry figured out here. They just have not figured out how to mass produce it, but time will tell, right? But this one for sure is going to be a big game changer. Not talking about the solid state batteries. I'm still skeptical on that, but this next gen battery that's much more compact and much higher energy and power dense compared to what they have now. So certification was granted for next gen batteries at Prime Planet Energy and Solutions. And production started of next gen batteries, a performance version as well, at Prime Earth EV Energy. And if I remember this correctly, this was their first joint venture, Prime Earth EV Energy. This is their first joint venture with Panasonic when it came to batteries. Toyota just bought them out last year. So Toyota owns completely Prime Earth EV Energy. Prime Planet is still a joint venture between Panasonic and Toyota, but yeah, Toyota is going to be making them in-house by themselves in their own plant as well, in parallel to them working with Panasonic to build them. And so with these battery developments and certifications, Japan is securing their own domestic supply of components for their EVs. They don't want to be completely dependent on other countries for their supply chain. So it's happening for Japan. Just keep in mind that as we import those vehicles to America, they won't qualify for the EV tax credit in theory, all right? That those goalposts are always moving. And if you can lease it, it can qualify no matter where it's made. But EV tax credit might go out the window if, you know, the winds of the political scene change. So anyways, I'm not going to get into that for obvious reasons. So let's talk about Volvo here at the end. A little icing on the cake here. Volvo is bulking up hybrid lineup as it delays electric only switch. It still has 5 EVs in the works, including a low slung ES90 and the EX60 midsize crossover. So EX60, think of it as a fully electric XC60, and it would be maybe a competitor to the Model Y in some ways. The ES90 flagship sedan would be a competitor to the i7 from BMW, for example. But outside of battery electrics, Volvo is teasing some exciting things here. So they're expanding their lineup with new longer range plug-in hybrids, and Volvo will continue to invest in high volume mild hybrid and plug-in hybrid XC90 and XC60. Now, let's pump the brakes real quick. Volvo just released a refresh on the XC90, and it's really the same car, but there's a new screen in here, but the interior looks very, very similar from my recollection. The front end looks a lot nicer right now. It looks a little bit more like the EX90 front end, kind of mix matched with the XC90. It looks fantastic in my opinion, the new XC90 refresh. And Volvo admits they would be wiped out without the XC90 since people are gravitating towards plug-in hybrids instead of fully electric. And the XC90 accounts for 30% of Volvo sales so far this year. The thing is, even though the XC90 is refreshed, the powertrains, to my understanding, have not been refreshed. These next-gen longer-range plug-in hybrids are not available with the refreshed XC90, which is quite strange. So you're still stuck with the 33 miles of advertised range. But they want to upgrade those plug-in hybrid systems with higher energy, high density electric motors and use more advanced batteries. As they walk away from that EV only 2030, here's what they had to say. They now aim for plug-in hybrids and battery electric only models to account for at least 90% of its sales in 2030. So they better have quite the plug-in hybrid system, because BEVs in 2030, obviously they can be a lot better than they are now. Plug-in hybrids, Volvo's plug-in hybrids are fantastic. They are actually fun to drive. They have tons of power, 455 horsepower. They are rocket ships. The thing is, their Achilles heel, I would say, is not necessarily the fully electric range. Of course, that will get better, but their Achilles heel with their plug-in hybrids is the amount of fully electric driven power and torque, and that has improved over the years versus their first gen plug-in hybrids, but you're still limited to, I want to say, around 130 horsepower or so of electric only power when the gasoline engine is not chipping in, and that needs to improve dramatically. Look at Toyota's RAV4 hybrid RAV4 Prime, for example. Doesn't have anywhere the same peak power as Volvo's plug-in hybrids, but in terms of fully electric power, it's much more impressive than what Volvo offers. But the combined power between the gasoline engine on a Toyota hybrid and a Volvo hybrid is night and day difference in the favor of a Volvo, right? The most powerful plug-in hybrid I think we have right now would be the TX. It's on stop sale. TX 550h plus. I want to say that's a little over 400 horsepower, and Volvo's standard plug-in hybrid system is 455 horsepower. And there are other differences there with transmission too and whatnot, but I'm not going to get into it too much today. We're going to make sure that we keep mild hybrid and plug-in hybrid technology competitive and in the range until 2030 and beyond if need be. There you go. They are keeping the door open for flexibility and to be able to cater to the customer if and when the customer wants something different. Leadership is about having a clear vision, but it's also about adjusting to realities. And the reality is that cost parity hasn't happened yet. And well, in a lot of ways with, I would say, Western EVs compared to Western ICE vehicles or ICE hybrids. If you go to China, Chinese EVs are very, very, very cheap, but they have their own supply chain there to make it that cheap. Everything they can produce in their own country in China. The cost of EVs made outside of China still haven't fallen to where they need to be to compete at a price competitive level with ICE cars, hybrid cars, or even plug-in hybrids. And government incentives have started to trickle off, and it's almost guaranteed there's going to be massive changes to the EV incentives here in the United States. But some markets like Germany had pulled the plug on their EV incentives, and that's why we're seeing a huge drop in German EV uptake. And this is happening a lot faster than what Volvo expected. Volvo's US sales of EVs have cratered 74% to just 2,000 vehicles in the year's first half. In the same period, plug-in hybrid sales have surged 75%. But like I said, stay tuned. This morning is going to be a big press conference from Honda, and I believe the embargo is Tuesday. So if you're watching this before Tuesday, stay tuned. I'll drop the big information dump on you guys about Honda's EV strategy shortly, okay, in just the next few days. So have a great weekend. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more automotive news updates. And like I said, tomorrow morning, I'll be posting August sales for the automakers, who's doing hot, who's not, what models are doing well, which aren't, all that good stuff. It's like a mega video. This one was long, but tomorrow's will be longer. So stay tuned for that. Can't wait to see you in the next one.